Hi, welcome to Junk Journaling with Kat. I'm Kat Cunningham. I'm a teacher at AmeriCorps at Imagine Art. And what we're going to do is the next lesson, if you've already done one with me, which was creative doodling, now we're moving on to the next basic in art. Line. Line is everything. And if you learn all about lines and how to put them together and how to make patterns with lines, you can do anything in the way of art. So I'm going to show you some examples. We're going to go through quickly, but later on you'll be able to see a presentation that'll take you step by step so that you can take at your own leisure your time to do your exercises here at Imagine Art. So let's get started. We're going to work with 6 different kinds of lines. On the left side of these squares are just how you would look at the line. So these are vertical lines. These are the lines that stand up straight. Then the next line is a horizontal line. Horizontal lines, not the ones filled in, but just the lines themselves. They can be crooked, but basically they are the lines that are what we call, they lay down. Just like you lay down on a couch, you are horizontal. The third one is diagonal. Diagonal usually is an angle from one end to the other, but on an angle like this. That's what these are. The empty ones are the first set that you're going to do. You're going to make those 6 squares and you're going to do just simple lines in each of those squares. The fourth one that we're looking at is wave, or some people call it an S-curve. I call it a wave. You're used to seeing it when you see an ocean or you see anything in land shapes. So here are our empty lines, and those are the lines that are going to go in your first set of 6 squares. In the next set of 6 squares, which is number 5, you don't see this a lot in nature. You see it more in what we call geometric designs. But you will find that there are early tribes that have used this. This is normally known as the spiral of life. So we call this line a spiral, and it will be a curl that will go this way, but you can also do a curl that goes the other way. If you're looking for that curl in nature, take a look at a snail, the shell of a snail, or a lot of shells that you find on the ocean, because they are the chambers that the animal lives in. A shell known as a nautilus has that round chamber. So these are the spirals. And then the 6th line is more of a jagged line. If you were going to look at broken rocks, you would see and follow that line. You would see that it was a jagged line. You see this line on TV a lot with people who do finances because they chart up and down what's happening to a country. And this is a jagged line. So the first 6 that you're going to be doing will be the vertical, the horizontal, the diagonal, the S wave or curve, the spiral, and then the jagged line. After you've done those 6, now we have the fun of exploring them. So I did a little sample of how you could explore them. This line here, and if you fill them in, you can tell really easily what's happening. But go on to another 6 squares that you've created, very much like this. And it's going to be in your sketchbook, or whatever book you decide you're going to be working on. You'll probably be getting sketchbooks pretty soon from us. And otherwise, you'll be able to use anything you want to use. So I started filling in my vertical lines. Here I did them solidly. And here I did them solidly here. Here, also, by doing them solidly, and here, and here, and here, you now can see that they have depth. That's from here to there. You can see that they have could be anything. I mean, it could be something very solid. It doesn't look solid until you fill them in. Now it looks really solid, right? So it gives it weight. being solid line, it gives it weight. It gives it distance. If you were if we turned it this other way and we did this way in a horizontal look, it could be shapes of landscapes. It could be anything like that, and we'll get to that in a minute. So when you make things solid, you tend to give them more what we call dimension. Line will create dimension. Here in the spiral, I made it solid, but we'll talk about this in a minute. Here, this being more solid, some lines being thinner, some lines being thicker. When you're making things solid, you can play around with the thickness and the thinness of the lines. Thin sometimes pushes back, thick sometimes comes forward. When we change values of this, which we can get in much later, but when we start to change the values of these things, it tends to look like it's right in front of me or it's behind me. Right now, this is just simply two-dimension flat lines, but lines can create everything. And if you learn about lines and you explore enough of them and you have enough excitement that you create in a line, there isn't anything that you cannot do in any media. So that's our next set. Your next set of 6 is going to be experimenting. And I don't care whether you do these 6 or whether you do many, many more. The more experimenting you do, the better you're going to get at painting, at adding lines to ceramics, at drawing, a three-dimensional art, whatever it is you're doing. Line is the basic, what we would call building block, right? It's one of the building blocks of the principles of design, and that's what junk journaling is going to be about. So let's move to the third one. The third one here being your vertical lines. The first one that you did, just line, then filling it in. Now we're going to fill it in with lines and dots. I'm adding some of these others to create this pattern. Here, I added the horizontal to the wave, and I got this pattern. If I was filling it in, it would be really unique. When I added diagonal to the spiral and started filling it in, I had a whole new level of a pattern. This, you'll see, is normally can be seen in fabrics, and that's why I wore this shirt. I wore this shirt to show you because, look, these are diagonal lines. These are wave lines. These are filling in and adding dots. These are creating more organic, which was more of a flower, right? But when I saw it, I thought, how perfect, because you'll see that it's not just an exercise on paper, but everywhere you look, you are going to see line. And the exciting thing now is you're going to be a part of all of that. So here I added to my jagged line, I added spirals and diagonal lines, and I got a whole different kind of a pattern. Down here, hopefully you can see that down here, this is more organic. If I was going to be drawing a leaf and I wanted some of the lines inside of it, it would be very exciting to be able to put new patterns into it. So I've got broken lines in it, I've got spirals in it, I've got a wave in it, but it started out as a diagonal line. So that's the exciting part about line, and if you learn to get line down, you're going to do really well. I'm going to show you what I started with in my sketchbook. Can you see that real well? Okay, so that's where I started. I started in my sketchbook with some lines, just the basics like I taught you just now, and then we moved on. This exercise is really simple because you're just going to use a piece of paper anywhere, or if you do have a sketchbook yet, or if you want to start one, it'll be easy to do. You can just do squares. This is from that doodling exercise that we did first, and all I did was make a copy of it. You can make a copy with tracing paper, and if you don't have tracing paper, maybe somebody bakes in your house because that baking parchment is perfect. I put this up to my window, put the parchment over it, trace it. If you don't have a printer, you're done, you know? But now I'm going to show you something else. And you can do this with markers, you can do this with a black pen, you can do this with a dark number 2 school pencil. I want to show you what painting. that I didn't do this, but I saw it and I loved it and I thought, this is perfect. Take a look at this. If you're doing abstract painting in our painting classes and you get confused at it, it's just line, isn't it? This is a curved line. It could be part of a spiral. It could be the S curve changed. This is definitely horizontal lines. These are vertical lines. If I know how to put these curved lines, you could almost follow this like a spiral. And this could be a broken spiral, broken up like verticals and horizontal lines. If you did a pattern like that, practicing like this, you would just add horizontal lines, vertical lines. This could be where a tree could go. This could be where a house could go. This could be right down here, more landscapes or mountains back here. So once you learn how to work with line, that's why this is a building block for all design of any kind. Once we learn to work with line, we can do just about anything. So I'm excited about doing more, learning more, and getting excited about what I can do. And now it's your turn.